was wondering, does this constitute evening or is this still afternoon?
This is afternoon in my brain.
When evening starts at 5 in my mind?
No, evening officially starts at 6.
6, okay.
Good afternoon, Lisa.
There you go.
Good afternoon. How are you doing today?
Yeah, good. You?
I was supposed to be working on tamales all week long, and if I actually tell you the predicament that I'm currently in with my red sauce, Estella would laugh so hard she'll probably pee her pants, because it is like the Three Stooges roll into one person.
You do this every year, Lisa?
No, I haven't made tamales. No, I've never made tamales by myself ever. And I'm trying to remember my father's recipe now that he's no longer with me. And I recently figured out this morning he's been lying to my cousins about the type of chicken he's been using.
I heard a great story. A woman was talking about her recipes and sharing them with her daughters. And her daughter saying, my recipes never taste like yours. And that they were pretty sure that their mom was withholding ingredients. And the mom confirmed that. She says, well, it's not my job to give them the whole recipe. You know, that they need to do some of their own experimenting and to figure it out. Plus, she still wanted people to come back and visit often to eat her cooking and say it's better.
My father never wrote down any of his recipes, so you had to be there to learn. Mm-hmm. And I never learned the type of chilies he used. Mm. And my cousin's like, no, your father only used this. And I'm like, no, he didn't. He only used this. And I'm like, no, he didn't. I know he didn't, because I knew he used at least 2 to 3 chilies. I bought some chilies, unbeknownst to me, you know, I don't know the names. I know what they look like. So I had to do an Instacart buy. So I Instacart bought them, and the minute I opened it, I'm like, yeah, these are the chilies my father uses. Oh. So my cousin just finished making all her tamales, and I had to break the news that she used the wrong chilies. So I think it's kind of funny. So.
Good. Are you making multiple kinds or just one kind?
Oh, no, I don't make multiple anything. No. I'm doing beef, because that's the only thing I'm going to eat. And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think I'm giving anything to anybody, because no one's here to wipe down my walls from today's accident. So.
That's only fair.
Mm-hmm.
So some of you may have already seen, you know, we have a new old edition. So very, very happy to have Jessica Olson back, and she's already grooming the next wave of air pollution control.
Oh my goodness.
People.
Yes. We're happy to be back. I'm excited to hear some updates and get back into the swing of it.
Introduce the new edition.
Oh yeah, so this is Eleanor Scout.
Oh my goodness.
She's a little over 9 weeks now. Yep.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We're wearing 3 to 6 months clothing already. She's very large.
Wow.
Yeah, she weighs 15 pounds.
Wow.
Adorable.
So, thanks.
Oh, she is. Mm.
See Andy and Genevieve. It's good. Good turnout. Tim.
Hey, Genevieve, did you get that email I sent you?
I think so. Yeah, with the
yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Is Jamie on by chance?
I don't see her yet.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry for getting started a bit late. Apologize for that. I understand how busy everyone is, and
Mientras esperamos, ¿alguien necesita ayuda para ingresar a la interpretación? ¿Estela o Isabel?
Ya estoy en
español?
el canal de español. Gracias.
Okay. Gracias, entonces. Ok.
Tim, just double checking, is Kevin going to be able to make it?
I don't know, Ryan.
Okay.
I'll send him a text. Actually, I just saw a text with him and Samir, so let me follow up with him.
Okay.
I'd say go ahead and get started. I wouldn't wait.
Okay. All right. I think they just had a couple translation for some of the slides that they were just wrapping up. So.
Just got a heads up. They're just a couple minutes out. Sorry for the delay.
Sorry for my squeaky chair.
Thanks, Rania. It's just because she's sleepy. She's not always this chill. I figured I'd take the couple minutes advantage until we get started to hold her and then pass her back off to mom, my mom.
I'm gonna make sure I don't pay too much attention. I don't need baby fever or anything like that.
I know. I turned off my camera as to not start like a slew of AB 617 babies in the next couple months over there. So.
So is everybody's seasonal Christmas shopping and stuff done? Yes, no, maybe. We're waiting for Amazon guy to show up.
Right, yeah, I'm crossing my fingers that the like will arrive by Christmas actually happens.
Pues estoy esperando mi regalo.
Mrs. Estella lets us know that she is awaiting her present. Just FYI.
Oh. Well, you guys want to laugh?
Always.
Okay. So the other day, my shoe order came in, but I don't know what to wear for New Year's and for Christmas. So should I wear these shoes, which are slippers, for Christmas, or these slippers for New Year's? What should I do? What is a girl to do for her Zoom holiday parties?
They're going to see your feet in the Zoom holiday party?
With my friends, yeah, they would. They would ask. Because I plan to get dressed up and wear slippers, actually, and they're going to want to know what shoes I'm wearing. And but I think it's just kind of comical that we've like basically evolved to what sort of slipper will you be wearing for your Christmas party on Zoom?
I've noticed the targeted ads I get on social media are now about like chic loungewear and not chic work clothes. So it is funny.
Oh, yeah. I think everybody's going to have to be taught how to learn and interact again after a year. Because I'm looking at, I'm going to have to be taught how to socialize again in person. Because I'm concerned about being let out in the wild.
That's how I even felt coming back today and yesterday. This is the longest I've had like an adult conversation. So excuse me if I slip up in any way.
Oh, it gets a little bit worse, by the way, just to let you know, but it's okay. Have you hit the mommy fog yet?
I think I hit that like a month before I even had her. So
How old do they have to be before you can stop claiming the mommy fog, asking for a friend?
So they're 18, Heather.
All right, I'm in good shape. I got 15 more years.
What? What do you want? What?
She's looking for advent calendar treats.
She's looking at me because she wants to know what the heck I'm doing. I've spent so much time on AB 617 Zoom meetings last week. She is like neurotic. Thank you. Come here. Come here. Here's Tasha. Tasha, see everybody?
With a homemade sweater, right?
Yes.
So you know
she won't let me change it because it's a Christmas one. Ow. All right, little dog. Oh. Hey, Jessica, you want another baby? Please. It's like raising twins.
yeah, probably. I already have a lab, so you know how the labs are. I feel like I already have two.
Triplets then. She can keep your husband, occupied.
True.
She is a cleaner. She loves to clean to people. Are you okay? Are you all right now? And by the way, guys, she went through all the doggy treats. All of them. And Advent isn't even here.
Hey, I got half an advent calendar left. You want me to bring it by?
No. Because now I'm going through advent treat withdrawals. So, you know, thank you, Jamie. Thank you very much. She will be going to Betty Ford after the first of the year for treat addiction. What do you want, baby girl? Baby girl. What do you want? You got kibble, you got water, you got your bed, you got your blanket, you got the couch, you got the bed, you got your tent. What do you want? What do you want? You just want lots and lots of attention. I got a meeting. Okay? Little dog. Oh. Oh. What? Are you going to start barking? Don't bark. These people don't need to hear you bark. Okay? You need to be a good puppy. You need to be a good puppy. Go find Santa. Go find the squirrel. Go find a toy, please. Ugh. So, Jessica, what's your middle name?
Scout.
Scout?
Mm-hmm.
Kill a Mockingbird?
Kill a Mockingbird. Yep, exactly. Which there were, I mean, I really wanted to make it her first name, but she can choose what she wants to be called in the future. We liked Eleanor a lot. We liked the classic name as well.
Is Eleanor from a family reference or?
No. I felt like, I don't know how people do it with families, because I just couldn't imagine, like, what if you pick like one side of the family and then the other side didn't get named after, and I just felt like there was a lot of pressure there. So we liked Eleanor because it's not part of the family, but it's still like a classic sounding name, and there are a lot of nickname options with it too. So we'll see what she goes by. But
Jessica, good call on not picking out a family member. Somebody in my family did that and caused a huge stink. And it was like, no, I wanted to name my child that when they came up, and it was just drama. Yeah, good call.
I can't with the drama. There's just like any family, there's already enough drama. I didn't need to add to it. So
I will say though, Eleanor is making a comeback as a classic name.
So I don't know. I mean, while we're just chatting, I've watched 2 movies now in the past couple days that are both brand new, like 2020 movies, where the main character is Eleanor.
Yes, I think I might have seen the same movies.
Yeah, probably.
Yes.
If anyone's watched Godmothered on Disney Plus.
Not seen that one yet. So there are a couple others out there then.
Crazy Rich Asians, the mother's Eleanor.
Yes.
Yep. So
there are a lot of them, and young kids too. So I think she's going to have fun. Like, I named my son Aiden 14 years ago, and he was like, no, there were no Aidens. And then that year it was like the #1 name of like the last 5 years.
What, Erica? I have a 14-year-old Aiden also.
Aiden. Yeah.
It was #1.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Well, as a Jessica, I understand the Aiden thing, because Jessica
yeah, you do. Yes, you do.
Yep.
Yes.
And you should never worry about actually naming your child after somebody, because in my family, there are Big John, Little John, Little John, Big Bert, Little Bert, that type of thing. And then the only person that has 3 people with the same name is me. So I'm the original. I always say I'm the OG Lisa. There's little Lisa, and there's she married into the family Lisa.
I love it. Well, I will one up you, Lisa. I have a niece and a nephew born on my birthday. So we all share the same birthday, and we all have we had birthday parties together for like the better part of 20 years.
I thought you were going to say that if the boy was named Erica.
Oh, I have a brother named Eric. So that's how, yeah, I know.
I love that,
my parents did not have my mother was not very, didn't have a lot of imagination with the naming of her kids. There's 4 of us and all of our names are kind of boring or related to each other. So it's okay. I was going to be a Jessica if I wasn't an Erica.
Like I've always told people, my mother named me Lisa because it was her favorite 4-letter word because she never cussed except when she said Lisa.
That's a good one.
Hey guys, this is John with the district. We just got the material ready right now. So Chai is going to be jumping in here and he's going to walk us through a presentation that will give an overview of what we've been seeing with the data collected so far and what we've learned from that. Then we'd love to get some feedback from you all on what you think about it, feedback from you on a format that's good for you to see going forward, what's easier for you to digest and understand with the data that we're presenting, and then we can kind of talk about a few other things. So Chai should be jumping in here in just a minute. He can walk us through this presentation. And here he is jumping on right now.
Hi, how's everybody doing? I hope you guys didn't have to wait too long on this. Let's see here. I'm trying to convert this over here and share my screen so everyone can see it. All right. Can everybody see this? Yes?
Yes.
To both screens too? It's legible?
Yep, looks good.
All right, well, okay, we'll get started. Thank you to everybody for joining us tonight on this subcommittee meeting. As requested by the Community Steering Committee, we're going to meet. The purpose of this meeting and presentation is really just to provide an overview of what's been going on with their air monitoring in the South Central Fresno community, and review the air monitoring data that we have collected so far, and go over some of the things that we're seeing, things that we've learned so far, and also to talk about next steps, what we're going to be doing, and lastly here is to get feedback from the steering committee regarding the implementation, regarding on how you would like for us to present the data, the air monitoring data, and any other changes and anything else that we can do to make the process and make this a bit easier for the steering committee. So this was the plan that the steering committee approved. Basically, as you can see here, we have the standalone, the PM2.5 real-time air monitors we've identified as general areas of where you would like those to be at in these sections. So these are the areas that you've identified, including our multi-pollutant monitors that has various pollution that it can monitor, and also our air monitoring trailer here at Malaga Elementary. And these are some of the existing monitors that we already have. So this is what when we started this process. Now, I'm just going to give you just a very brief overview of the type of equipment that we're using. This one to the left here, this is actually at Roosevelt High School. This is a PM25 real-time monitor, so it just monitors PM25. And the one on the right-hand side here is what we call an air pointer. And we have this installed at Fresno Middle School. And this has looks at multiple pollutants from PM25 to NO2 to SO2. so forth. So it has a lot more pollutants that it can take a look at. And so this is how it's actually deployed. This picture here to the left here is at West Fresno Middle School. So we put it onto a platform here, and so we have the air pointer over here, and then here we also have our real-time PM25 monitor. On the right-hand side here is this is the actual location at Malaga Elementary School. This is our air monitoring trailer. And it has an extensive list of pollutants that it looks at, from PM25 to ozone to NO2 to SO2. So it's a lot, there's just a lot more variety. And in addition to that, we also have our, we also sample the air, so that we're collecting these air samples and we take it to the lab, and we send it off to the laboratory to take a look at all the various pollutants. So there's two types. One is VOC. So we're collecting that and trying to analyze all the various types of VOCs we have that we're collecting in the air. And there's another type, which is for PM25, where we're trying to identify all the various types of PM25 in there as well at this particular location. And we'll go over those results in a little bit here. And this is our community air monitoring van. It also has an extensive list of air monitoring equipment in there to monitor, again, from PM25 to ozone to NO2 to SO2, and also Btex as well. And so overall, we're still continuing to conduct the localized air monitoring in South Central Fresno. We're working to deploy our additional equipment as recommended by the steering committee and by the network design. And right now, everything is pretty much operational out of all the sites, and we'll discuss it in a little bit more detail site by site. But there's almost all of them is deployed except for two sites. One of the two sites, we're very close to getting the electrical infrastructure into place. So hopefully we'll get these fully completed for both of these fairly soon here. And we are continuing to use the air monitoring van for the various locations that were identified in the plan. And in addition to that, we have also been using the van to monitor locations that, while we were still in the process of getting approval or installing the necessary infrastructure at some of the sites, we've been using the vans nearby those sites to capture the emissions at those locations. And thirdly, we also have been using the van to monitor any locations that steering committee members have requested for us to monitor. And on top of that, we've been doing a lot of an extensive PM25 and VOC speciation sampling, which is what I had discussed earlier about having those canisters, collecting those air samples and taking it to the lab so we can better understand all the different components in PM25 and all the components in VOC that we're seeing in those areas. And we've been doing this since late 2019 in collecting all the samples. So here's an overview of all the locations where we're monitoring. This includes the ones that we've identified for the permanent, stationary, more permanent monitors. For example, like at Heaton Elementary, as you can see here, Heaton Elementary is #1 up here. We're doing PM25 monitoring, and that has been implemented and that's operating now. Yosemite Middle School over here is 2.5, and that's installed, and so forth. So you'll see like all these the stationary locations here, those have been done with the exception of Madison Elementary, which is over here, #4 here. We're currently working with the contractors to install the electrical infrastructure over there. And the only other one left from there is going to be Edison High, and we're still working with the school on the appropriate locations and also the necessary infrastructure that's going to be needed in order to have that air monitoring equipment installed over there. And another one, just wanted to note is at number 9 here. So currently we have installed a monitor over there at West Fresno Middle School. Our original intent, the original intent on that, as the steering committee wanted it to be at Orange Center, and as we've talked about for a few months ago, the board had indicated that they were unwilling to entertain that for the time being, since they had a lot of other things, a lot of other projects going on. So, so we decided that, and we discussed with the board, I mean, we discussed with the steering committee, and it was agreed that we would at least get the monitoring started at some place that's nearby, and that's at West Fresno Middle School. And so that's been installed, and we are getting data from that, which we'll look at a little bit later. As far as Orange Center is concerned, now that there's some time passing by, we'll double check and check with their board and with the school to see if situations have changed, and to see if we can get some monitoring over there. And in addition, as you'll see through here, the ones that are lettered in here, those are all the locations where we've monitored with the van. And that includes locations that we have that have been identified within the plan, and also additional locations that have been requested by the steering committee members to do the monitoring. And so this is a comparison of the PM25 readings that we've been seeing for all of the locations that we have installed PM25 monitors, basically all the stationary locations. As you can see down here, we have Bitwise, Heaton, there's Fresno Foundry, Malaga, Yosemite, Roosevelt. And we've also included our regulatory monitors that are outside of the community, just to get some reference of how it trends and how it tracks relative to those. As you can see here, all of these monitors are pretty consistent in tracking the PM2.5 emissions. And this one, we're looking at the 24-hour average. And this is so that we can compare it to our the 35 micrograms per cubic meter standard to see how that is in comparison to the standard. And again, it's very consistent here. And as you can see, towards the late August here, we're seeing these huge spikes. And for most of you, I'm sure you understand why we've been experiencing that from the wildfires. And it's been, I think it's probably one of the worst that we've actually felt the impact here, personally felt the impact here in Fresno. And so these spikes are pretty understandable why we're having those. And as you can see, they're trending down. And as they're trending down here, you know, we're entering back into the season, winter, where we're typically getting a bit more of the PM2.5. As you can see, like slight spikes over here above the standard here in the January time period here. And we also took a look at the NO2 concentrations just to compare those, because now that we do have those monitors in the trailer and at West Fresno Middle School, we're comparing that to our NO2 monitor at our Drummond regulatory air monitoring site, and also at the Fresno Foundry Park, our regulatory air monitoring site over there. And as you can see here, the NO2, and so these are 1 hour averages. And one thing to look at is to look at the peaks here. There's so much data on here that we can to put together that may be a little bit harder to see. But one thing that you can look at and really try to get a good understanding on is the peaks here. As you can see, Fresno Foundry Park typically has a higher peak, higher reading throughout this time period here. And that's because at the Fresno Foundry Park, that's our near roadside, that monitor is located right next to Highway 99. So so NO2 that's coming from the vehicles, from the combustion engines there, from cars and trucks. And as we look at like Fresno Drummond, that's farther away from vehicular traffic. Same thing at Malaga Elementary, and also at West Fresno Middle School. As you can see when we started installing those air monitors, that's when you see these readings showing up. And here, like in right around between late September, early October here, when we started when we finished installing the monitor at West Fresno Middle School. And you can see where that it's still primarily the higher peaks are really at Fresno Foundry Park. And again, within all of these, we're still maintaining levels below the 1 hour NO2 standard. And we also looked at SO2 concentrations as well. We have the SO2 monitor at West Fresno Middle School and also at Malaga Elementary. And as you can see here, for the most part, they're below the federal standard here, but there is one spike here. And we're still looking at this, trying to figure out what is causing this. And in addition to that, as you see through here, we're seeing little spikes that keeps on occurring. And these are 1 hour spikes. So it's just during the day, you'll see like one spike and then it drops down. And so that's something that we're continuing to look at, trying to get a better understanding of what's causing these spikes. For the most part, I mean, they're all pretty low except for these spikes that occur once in a while around here. And as far as ozone concentration, we also compared West Fresno Middle School along with the monitor at Malaga, and comparing that with our regulatory monitor located at Drummond. And again, these are all pretty consistent with each other as far as the tracking. And that makes sense in that ozone is really more of a regional pollution. It's not as concentrated or localized. So they are fairly consistent throughout these locations. And I just wanted to give a brief summary of the Btex readings that we've been collecting at Malaga Elementary through the air monitoring trailer. As you can see here, when we're looking at the hourly averages, it's pretty much zero. And this data is available on our website if any of you would like to take a look at it. But if you look at the data, what you're going to see is there's a bunch of zeros, a lot of zeros in there. So from an hourly perspective, average, it's zero, very small on the xylene at 0.1. And one thing I should note in here, which is missing here, is all of these are in ppbs, parts per billion. And so if we look at just the peak values, we do see a little bit of peak here and there. But again, this is like well below the any type of health standard. So for example, for toluene, the health standard, there's the OEHA, Office of Environmental Health and Hazard Assessment. They've established a threshold which they call risk exposure levels. And what that is it's basically at these levels, if you go above these, these are levels where they don't expect to have any type of adverse health impacts. And so they have various levels of that where they look at chronic, which means if you were exposed to this for a lifetime, at what level would lifetime exposure to this cause any adverse health effects? And so that is 11, that's 111 ppb for toluene. And so this is well below that threshold. But one thing to keep in mind is, again, this is just when we had it installed. So that's just from June to December. So once we collect a full year round and more than that, we'll be able to get a better idea of the full readings of these. And And so this is a summary of all the air monitoring van data that we've collected from January to now. So the vans are, it's a little bit different in that, we have so many locations that we're monitoring the vans, and they're there for, anywhere from an average like 4 or 5 hours. And we're planning to do a little bit more than that, finding locations where we can also do overnight to get a better understanding and capture more of the emissions on it throughout the entire day. And so these are just really preliminary cursory data to look at, to kind of get an idea of all these locations that have been identified that we have monitored over there. What type of readings are we getting? And so that's why we're looking at more the average values. Again, for Btex, we're not really finding anything from an average hourly, but we do have some peaks for something that for like toluene that has an applicable standard, and that's about 9.6 ppbs, and that's still significantly less than the well below the 111 ppb there. And then as far as PM25 readings that we're getting from the van, average value from what we've collected so far is 14.7 hourly. And again, that's an hourly average. Whereas if you were to compare it to the federal standard, that's based on a 24-hour standard. And as far as the peak hourly reading that we've got, the highest one that we've gotten so far is 160, and that was during the wildfire, during the peak time there. So that is fairly consistent with what we've seen in the top slide. And as far as ozone, we're getting an average hourly about 34, and peak we saw an 82 parts per billion reading, and I think that was at the Jensen location for the van, and that was actually during the that was on the 1st of October, I believe, and that was during right at noontime, so where the ozone levels were a bit higher. But again, that was a 1 hour snapshot as the highest. So we were there. We had an 8 hour reading on that one. So looking at the 8 hour average, that was roughly about 65.4 parts per billion. So that's still slightly below the threshold. But that was where we found the highest ozone levels where we monitored with the van. And with CO, it's fairly low, relatively low compared to the standard. NO2. So NO2, we did find one that we did capture a value that was 148.7. That was higher than the standard. And looking at it, this was very early on when we just had begun air monitoring with the van. And at that time, we were going from location to location. We were trying to hit multiple sites, and in one day, there would be like 3 or 4 sites that we were trying to capture on that same day. And so this is not even an hourly average. This is more like a 30-minute average. So there was one spike there, and then all the other readings afterwards, we did not get anything above this threshold. So this is definitely something that we're still continuing to do more work on, trying to identify some of these areas like this, and spend a little bit more time there to get it at various times of the day, various times of the week, to try to see if we see any of that, or to see if there are any trends that we can better understand. And hopefully, if there is anything that is going on, we can isolate and identify what is causing that and find some solution to reduce those emissions, or to get that addressed. We also monitored SO2 on the van as well. And as you see the values here, they are below the standard for the 1 hour average. Oops, let's see here. And then as far as the Pm25 speciation sampling, as I discussed earlier, we collect these samples and then we send these off into to the laboratory to get analyzed. So we started this process in November of 2019, and at that time we were still working with Malaga Elementary to get permission and to also install the necessary electrical infrastructure for our air monitoring trailer. So in the time being, we did some sampling from November to June. I'm sorry, there's a typo here, but it's actually June of 2020 here. So we did sampling at Fresno Foundry Park, which is near, but at the intersection of Jensen Avenue and Highway 99. And then we did that until June of 2020, when we got the trailer placed at Malaga Elementary, and then we switched over to that location. Oops. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. And so I'm going to go over some of the categories that we look at when we're looking at PM25. So one type of PM25 is ammonium nitrate, and that's formed by the reaction of ammonia and nitric acid. And nitric acid is from nitrogen oxides. And one of the main source of nitrogen oxides is from burning of fuel. So for example, like from vehicles and automobiles. Another type of PM25 category is ammonium sulfate. And very similar to ammonium nitrate, that's the reaction of ammonia and sulfuric acid. And so some sources in sulfur oxide, that's either from, it's primarily from sulfur oxide, which is could also be from smaller amounts directly from sulfur. So some sources of sulfur oxides is from burning of fuel. Another category is organic carbon, and that's predominantly through the combustion or burning of fuel. And there's a lot of different type of sources that this could be coming from. This includes from cooking, from industrial processes, from vehicles, the exhaust, from tire wears, and even including like wood burning. Another category is black carbon. You may also have heard of it as soot or as elemental carbon. And that's mainly formed from incomplete combustion in fuels. So for example, like that you would get in exhaust from automobiles, mainly diesel, and also from wood burning too. Another category of PM25 is soil, and that includes like road dust and or just dust from disturbance of soil. And lastly here, the last category we have here that we're looking at when we're doing these speciation is other metals. And that includes even particulates that are from engines, from the wear and tear, also from brake and other similar processes, and even like during fireworks, there can also be certain metals that are emitted during that time. So I know this looks a little bit hard to look at, a little bit mesmerizing, but so this is a comparison. So what we did was we compared just to see, like, in all the collection, in all the PM25 collections that we've obtained, and try to identify how much is within each category. And so this was done from November 2019 to June of 2020, and all of this was measured at the foundry location. And so each of these represent of each collection that we've each sample collection that we've obtained. And as you can see here, typically usually from 50 to 60% of it is primarily organic carbon. And then we have a little bit more of the ammonium nitrate as well and primarily this is like during the winter time period here during the colder season here, which is to be expected. And then from June of 2020, we moved that to the Malaga Elementary School. And the data we have collected so far and the results that we have received so far from the laboratories up to October. And again, this is very similar to what we found at the Foundry location, which is nearby Jensen and 99. But one difference that you'll see here, and I'll jump back and forth onto this so that you can see, is that the ammonium, the ammonium nitrate, and I believe even sulfate, is a lot less here compared to at the Foundry location here, and that's because of the NOx that's coming off from the traffic on Highway 99. And so that's Pm25 speciation, trying to understand and see what components are in there. Now, we also do the VOC speciation, which is collecting of the samples and sending that to a laboratory. When we started that process, the laboratory was able to speciate 68 various compounds. And since then, they've enhanced their processes, and now they're able to identify up to 86 different VOCs from each air sample. And again, this follows the exact same schedule as the PM25. So from December 2019 to June of 2020, this is what we found. Out of that 68 compounds, there were very, very limited, just very trace element amounts indicated in all the other 68. And these, we found very little amounts even in these other ones here, like vinyl bromide to vinyl acetate. Even if we found just a little bit here, we went ahead and put it in here just so that we can take a look at it and see even at the smaller trace levels. On the other ones, it's just a non-detect, so we decided that we're not going to show all the blank ones. But so these are all the ones that were detectable, and so primarily, as you can see here, the majority of it is methanol that we're seeing in here, and a little bit of ethanol and acetone. But one thing to keep in mind is that these are again still very low levels. So for example, when we talk about like health standards or health levels or metrics for health, out of all the ones that we're seeing right here that we are finding any trace levels of, only methanol has a value for it. And one of the more protective values is the chronic REL value. And that is 3,000. And again, what that means is that these are values that we have identified that as long as you stay, if you go above these levels, then there's a likelihood of having adverse health impacts. And so that threshold is at 3,000. And as you can see, we're even at methanol here, we're not even up to the 300. So again, this is really zooming in very closely to see these fine details here, but they're still very far below the thresholds. Oops. Oh. And just some notes. You know what? Maybe let me just finish the other one, and I can discuss that part of it as well. And so this is at Malaga Elementary. And again, very similar. By the time when we moved over to Malaga Elementary here, one thing that has changed is that the laboratory has enhanced their analysis process. And so now we're able to also take a look at, also get readings for the acetaldehyde. And so you can see here, we are getting some readings here. They're roughly, it looks like they're around like the 10 or 20 parts per billion range. And here is still very similar. I mean, there's a spike here up to 300. Majority of it is a little bit lower here with the methanol compared to what we found at Foundry. And one thing is, so one thing that's changed is the acetaldehyde, and there is a health metric for acetaldehyde, and that is much lower than the methanol, and that is at 80 parts per billion. And again, although that's still well below the threshold of what we're seeing here, but it's definitely something that we're keeping an eye on and looking into to better understand some potential causes for this. Acetaldehyde, and that's also could be from like tobacco smoke or combustion, could be from fermentation. So definitely that's something that now that we're seeing some readings here, we're looking into that to get a better understanding of what could be possibly the source of that. And so just a quick summary of what we've seen. And again, this is still on the early stages. In addition to that, because of the impacts of COVID-19, we're still going to have to, I think we're still going to definitely need a little bit more time onto this, especially after, hopefully it'll be addressed soon with the COVID situation and all of that, and to see what we get after that situation, to see what the readings are. But basically, PM25, what we found is it's fairly consistent, the readings that we're getting from our air monitoring, from the trailers to the more permanent sites to the air monitoring van. We found that they're fairly consistent throughout the community and within Fresno here. And based on our monitoring so far, there are some levels that we have detected, a few that are above the emission standards, but primarily, all of these exceedances are from the extreme wildfire period that we experienced most recently. As far as NO2, SO2, and ozone, for the most part, as we've discussed earlier, they're below the standards. And we're continuing to investigate and understand some of those spikes that we're seeing. Even though they're below the standard, we're trying to understand where it's coming from and why they're occurring during those timeframes. So we'll continue to take a look at that, and we'll update the committee as we better understand where these are coming from. And again, for NO2, SO2, and ozone, we're seeing that all of these monitors are following each other fairly consistently. As far as Btex, based on our monitoring so far, it's virtually a non-detect with our monitoring equipment in the van and in the trailer. But we'll definitely keep an eye on those, and anytime we see any of these spikes, to try to get a better understanding of where that's coming from. As far as the Pm25 speciation, most of it is organic carbon, and that we're seeing more than 50% of it. And that's the primary source of that, as discussed earlier, is from fuel combustion. So that includes cooking and industrial processes, from exhaust from cars and trucks, tire wear, and wood burning. Also, there's a little bit of 10 to 20% that we're seeing that's from dust from the Pm25 speciation. And VOC speciation, we're seeing it's primarily methanol. But again, that's less than 250 parts per billion, and that's looking at the actual peak. So that's still well below the OEA risk value of 3,000 parts per billion. So methanol is something that's primarily coming from solvent uses and also from automobile exhaust. And again, we did see trace levels of other pollutants, and now that we have the lab is able to get more or detect or speciate more types of VOCs, for example, like the acetaldehyde, we'll taking a closer look at those as well. And as far as moving forward, we're continuing to really dive deeper and investigate to get a better understanding of these emission changes. Like I had mentioned, seeing these spikes, getting a better understanding of where they're coming from. And it's going to take a little bit more time as we get more data and more complete data for throughout the entire year and season to get a better understanding of all of this. And so we'll definitely update the committee on that as we get more information on this and get better insight, obtain better insight. One thing is we do recommend that even for the especially for the recently established sites, that we should leave the air monitoring there for at least one full year after COVID restrictions are lifted, just to ensure that we're capturing the full trend of emissions that's representative of the area. And something that we will need to work with, that we will be working with the steering committee on is under what circumstances will we want to move these air monitors? Are there, as we are monitoring with a van, if we're getting certain values, is there certain locations that the steering committee may be interested in, or in us moving certain air monitors to those locations to start capturing more closely monitoring and capturing the trend, and to try to figure out the cause of those emissions increases or high emissions of concern that we're seeing in those areas. And that's definitely something that we'll be working with the steering committee on that. And just a reminder, we have all of this data that we've been collecting, from the real-time community air monitoring data to the Btex toxics data, to the data from the vans, to the quarterly reports, to the weekly air monitoring updates that we've been generating. Those are all available on the website for anybody who's interested in taking a look at. And also CARB does have their website that they are collecting data from us as well, the raw data. So for anybody who would like to take a look at that. And as always, we're continually working to find ways to get information that's relevant, that's important to you, and that you're looking for. So definitely continue to provide the suggestions that you've been providing to us. And we're continually working to update the website, provide the tools and resources to better display this data, to make it easier for you to get to the information that you need to. And that includes, for example, like in the process of developing an interactive site where we're showing where the vans are, and you can click on that and you can get the air monitoring data from that. And another huge effort that we're doing is integrating all these community air monitors with our existing regulatory monitors for our real-time, for our RAN system. And that pretty much concludes my presentation. I know it was a little bit long, and so if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Or if you have any comments and suggestions, that would be great as well. Well, it was daylight and now it's dark. So let me go turn on the light.
Yeah, Chai. Tim has a question.
Okay. Was that a question in the chat, or was it a question?
Looks like
Tim has his hand up.
Yeah, Tim, go ahead.
Sorry
if you,
about that. Yeah, I was having trouble with my mute.
Oh.
Thanks for the presentation, Chai. And I want to acknowledge all the work you guys have done, the monitoring team. I know it was a challenge to get these sites set up, and you found some really good workarounds, and it's great to be seeing this data. And I'm really happy how accessible the data is on the website. My only question is about the van. I was under the impression, and obviously I got this wrong, that there would be an optical black carbon monitor on the van, and we'd be able to do some comparison of black carbon levels in different locations. But I guess we're only getting black carbon from the speciated PM2.5, is that right?
So that's something that we're still working on. We do have black carbon on that, and I think Brad will probably be able to shed a little bit more light on the intricacies of this, but there's still a lot of it's the operation of the unit is a little bit, and interpretation of the readings from the unit is a bit more complex than just getting some readings and then we say, okay, this is what we have. We're still looking to get a better understanding of what we're seeing, what it means for the different types of wavelengths that it's monitoring for the black carbon portion of it. Hey, Brad, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, Tim.
Hey, Brad.
Yeah, we do have the nephelometer that is recording different wavelengths. And to speak in layman's terms for the group, it's pretty much looking at the absorption of light. So we know that black carbon is dark, so more light is absorbed into black carbon. So it's the reflection of the sample that's going through the instrument. And so we get a PM2.5 estimate value that is correlated to our current PM2.5. So that way we have a comparison. And then it gives us what's measured in angstroms on a black carbon reading. Well, what we've been able to find is that the wavelengths differ from different instruments. So we have 3 different instruments, and that they all have different wavelengths that they are measuring. And we are still working on the calculation on how we can actually say how much PM2.5 or how much black carbon is part of that PM2.5. And so we have all the data. We are still we're still gathering all the data, and we're still saving it. We have just not have been able to make that next step with the calculations. So we do have the data. We are still collecting it, and we still plan to use it. We just aren't confident on how to interpret that data. And we just don't want to give the community random numbers if we can't say for certain what percentage of black carbon is present in that PM2.5 sample.
And so once we put all that together and make sure that the interpretation is accurate, we'll definitely, that's going to be something that we'll present to the committee as well, and have something that the public can take a look at and to get a better understanding of the sources that are generating these.
Great. So the spreadsheet that you guys have created that has the different locations that the van has been stationed to collect SO2 and NO2, eventually there'll be a black carbon column where we can compare the different locations.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Terrific.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Great.
Hey,
Thank you.
Quick follow-up. Thanks, Tim, for that. Edward had a question that was similar to thinking about black carbon, asking if black carbon from fuel can that be differentiated from other sources of black carbon. So I know that's something that we're investigating and thinking about, but Brad, I don't know if you have any thoughts now on it, if it's possible to differentiate different types of black carbon, or if it's really just an overall black carbon, and maybe the speciation work is something that can do a better job to parse it out.
Yeah, just to, that's something that we are looking at trying to be able to get the data and be able to interpret it. There's been the Australian government has used some of the instruments that we are currently using in depth when Australia had significant wildfires, and they were able to use the nephelometer, not just for black carbon, but for soots and other organics in the PM2.5 sample. So we are actually working, sharing emails back and forth with other government agencies on how we can actually be able to interpret that data effectively and be able to give that back to the community.
Can I ask one other quick question about the speciation of from the filter samples? Are you getting back any markers that would help us with source apportionment for the organic carbon? So is there anything else besides organic carbon and elemental carbon that we would say, okay, this may be a diesel versus residential wood smoke versus charbroiling? I mean, are we getting cholesterol or levoglucosan or anything like that?
No, not at this time. It's just pretty much raw data as how we're getting it.
Yeah, but Tim, I like that thought. That is interesting. That could be really helpful to try to tie it back to different sources. So that's something that we can talk about with our lab and see if they're able to do some analysis to isolate some of those markers. I think that would be a really great next step to increase our analysis here. So it's something we can check on. That's a good point.
Great, thanks.
Thanks, Tim. Any other questions? Going once? Twice? All right.
Hey, Chad, just because I always think it's a good idea, maybe just navigate to show everybody how to get the information.
Yeah, definitely. Let me. I
know we email information out. We'll send out the presentation to the steering committee, and it includes links to the information as well. Maybe start from the homepage, Chai, just because it's
yeah, I'm going to go to the homepage. Just a reminder, because I know there's just so much resources on our webpage that it's maybe hard to know where to get to.
And I like that Chai is like me, and he has 80 windows open at the bottom of the screen.
So first on the main page here, you go to the AB617.
Can you do the control scroll up and zoom in, Chai?
Oh, I'm sorry.
It was very tiny.
Yeah, what might look big for me here is not. So you guys tell me when it looks right.
Let's get in there. A little more.
A little bigger?
Yeah, a little bigger.
I think that's the biggest one.
Okay, that works.
Okay. So you get to this page here, and then you go to the South Central Fresno community, and there's a community air monitoring page. Oops. Oh, my connection's just a little bit slow. And it comes
to dial-up modem.
Yeah, I gotta get a new one, upgrade. So this gets you to the main page. As you can see here, we have all the real-time monitor for the various locations. So for example, like if you just wanted to look at 2.5, we have PM2.5 at these locations. For example, like Roosevelt, you click onto that, and then oh, I do feel like I'm on dial-up. It's very slow. Okay, and then you'll see the readings for today, and then you can look back for historically too, at certain whatever date that you want, and you can get the real-time reading for that. And so that's available for, oops. We went a little bit too far. All right, I apologize for that. It's just, my computer is really slow right now. Okay. And so those are the real-time monitor. And this link here is to the historical raw data that we've sent to CARB. And CARB has been making some changes. So in the time being, we went ahead and put the additional raw data through a direct link here.
I don't think, I think the AQ view only goes through May. I think that's right. I know I saw Hanjiro on the call. So we began posting the real-time data until AQ view is, and I think even beyond that, we'll go ahead and maintain it here as well.
Yeah. And then we have the map of locations for reference. Then we have the van data here that you can download. And just recently, we also have the Btex readings that we've been collecting at the Malaga Elementary School. And it's available in both format because I know some of you like to get the data and do some analysis on it. So it's available in both Excel and also in PDF. And in addition to that, our weekly updates that we're also including here, and then you can always go back to archive to get all of that. And in here, we try to keep it very simple. It's in both Spanish and English and Spanish. Just a really simple one-page update of what's going on for the week, of all the readings, where we at in implementing the community air monitoring plan, what type of sampling are we doing, and when did we do those samplings, and anything else that's going on.
Hey, real quick, just wanting to make sure that everybody understands. When we're talking about Btex, that's benzene, toluene, ethylbenzene, and xylenes, which is those are the most common volatile organic compounds that are in the atmosphere. Typically produced from like fuel combustion, so cars, and other industrial type sources that combust fuels. Those are typically where that comes from. They're known carcinogens. They have negative health effects. So that's why we're looking to report that information to the steering committee.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying that, Ryan. And then, of course, we also have our community air monitoring, the quarterly reports and the plan. And so there's a lot of documents here. I know it can be overwhelming at times, and we're always open to suggestions from you, because it's something that we use quite frequently ourselves. So it's not as obvious as far as ways to enhance it, but if you have any suggestions, we definitely welcome that. And of course, there's a bunch of resources to other things as documents from our steering committee meetings and so forth. That's also located on our website here.
And real quick, Chai, just talking about enhancements. So one of the suggestions that we heard was, instead of just having a listing of the pollutant types in the monitors, having a visual representation of where the monitors were and being able to click on it and seeing the data that's currently in the development, including band data. So we're hoping in the next, month or so to be able to have that on the page that people can use. And then Chai, if you can go to the homepage real quick.
Oh yeah, and we did implement the, was it the one click?
Yeah. So I know she's not on here tonight, but Naimeen had made the recommendation that we have to have an easier way for members of the public to see air monitoring data for the communities right on the homepage. And so right underneath the RAN, where Chai is kind of highlighting, you click that link, it takes you back to that air monitoring homepage. So you'll be able to select air monitoring from one of the three communities. So hopefully that.
Yeah, it's my connection is just not very good here, but
yeah, I promise it does take you there.
Yeah, it should. It's just my connection's not taking.
It works for me. It works great. So yes.
All right.
All right. Well, I think we all thank everybody so much for their time tonight. You know, really appreciate you all sticking around, and you know, and as always, if you have any ideas or suggestions, you know, please share those with John and Chai and Brad. We're always looking to improve this and make it easier for everybody to understand, you know, what we're doing. You know, the data that we're collecting, it's very important for many reasons. You know, and including you know, establishing kind of what the baseline is for what emissions in the community are, and understanding that. You know, looking at sources of concern and you know, whether, you know, down the road we look at strategies or other measures to that we could look to further reduce emissions based off some of this data. So I mean, having good quality data is very important to this process. So yeah, I hope everybody has a fantastic rest of the week. If we don't see you before the holidays, everybody have fantastic holidays and New Year's, and yeah, looking forward to 2021.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks everybody for the feedback. Really appreciate it.
Buenas noches, Estela. Isabel.
Buenas noches.
Good evening,
Buenas
Miss
noches.
Isabel. Good evening, Mrs. Estela.
Hi, everyone.
Bye.
Good job, Chai.
Adiós.
Yeah.